So let's create our first tool and make some connectivity between the server and the front end. So what we're going to do on this exercise is to actually create just a new tool called help desk. So I'm just going to do it right now. PHP Artisan Nova tool, and I'll just call it help desk. And it says, yeah, sure. So help desk. So in this case, after creating this tool that is going to appear here on the left on the sidebar, we are going just to make a test to show to you how can you retrieve data from the front end, click on a button that sends that data to the back end, to the server, gets connected via a route, and then we just return other data back to your front end. So this is the pillar of how you can create front end components, is to understand how these things work between front end and the back end, for instance, on this case on a tool. And of course, we are also going to see how we can do the same on fields. Those two are mainly where you're going to have your biggest challenge to develop custom functionalities that you might need on Nova. So for that, after creating the tool that is just creating now, let's give it a moment very quickly. It's almost there. And it's done. So now all we need to do is just to add it on our on our Nova provider very quickly. So we go here to the tools, and then I'm just going to put return new help desk. So this is the name of the tool that I just created, and here on the left you're going to see it appears on the sidebar the link for the help desk tool. So when you click here, it says you know, you can go to Nova Components Help Desk Resources, and then you have all the information there that you want to actually change the tool. So for that, let me just also run npm run watch on the tool itself. So Nova Components and help desk, and now just make it a watch. This is important because when you change your view components, then you can actually you know, just recompile them on the fly. So I'm just going to drag this to another window here. Done. So the next thing, now that you have the help desk tool here, is changing the tool itself. So the tool by default doesn't act via the context, so it doesn't have like an index, you know, a detail or a create or an update. So actually when you go to your resources here on the left, you just have this template here, this component that says just tool.view, and is added to a route, to a view route here with the name help desk with a path help desk. So you can change all of these if you want to another ones, although I recommend you not to do anything there. So here, as you can see, Nova already scaffolds, let's say, a very pragmatical view component with the mounted function here ready for you to do something. So let me just add here the rest of the things that we might need to use. Let me just, for instance, do a quick test. For instance, here on the help desk, we can just on this case just put a variable here just for you to see, for us to see it working. So I'm just going to call like heading, and here on the part of the after the export default, you know, it's a normal view components methods that you need to create. Don't forget that when you are creating view components, the data is not a variable, a JSON variable that is returned, but it's actually a function, so it gets instantiated per view component on this case. So I'm just going to put here a heading called, just see it working, called help desk, just like this, and hopefully there's nothing else we need to do. So I just saved. When you do an F5, when you do a refresh, it should actually change there on the top. See, so things are starting to work, and as I said, I want to create something here that can actually send something to the server and return something from the server. So the best way is for you to see in action, so you can take your own conclusion. So I'm going to remove everything here, just leave the heading, and here it's up to you to do whatever you want. I mean, you can of course work with pure HTML, normal form submissions, wherever. You can even load jQuery, and then from there on you use it here on the script part to affect your template. I mean, what you want to do here inside this Vue component, it's up to you. So this is where Laravel Nova actually is very highly flexible to if you know Vue or if you know other type of languages, you just need to load it, import it via the JavaScript header part of the scripts of Nova, and then just put here whatever you want to process. So I'm just going to put here a div, and in this case I'm going to put, as I said, an input. We need to put here very quickly item center and justify center. The structure of the HTML that I'm just creating now, and so I want an input, and here it's where it starts to configure the input to also be binded. So here it's input, of course, type equals to text. I don't know, we can call it value. It's the value that we will send to the server, and you can apply normally the normal Tailwind CSS Tailwind classes that are also from the Nova default text input boxes. You can of course get this from any text box that you see, any input text that you see on the screen. Now let me put a button too. So very quickly, button, and we will have type equals to button. We will have a class also again applied with the same as the ones from Nova. BTN primary puts the button, in this case with the default theme that is blue. And if we click on the button, let me just call, I don't know, send. We are just going to send something to the server, so we just call it send and say send to the server. Okay, and finally we want to put another input that will receive the data. So again, it's a text input. We can call it received, and also I apply the same classes as ones here on the top. So I place the margin on the right, and here I put the margin on the left. We have the control, we have the input, and we have the form bordered. Okay. So with this code, what happens is I expect to see 3 elements here on the screen instead of this black hole. So we are no longer in the black hole. There we go. So we have one input box, another input box, and a button that will do something right when we click here. So another thing that you need to see on the tool is that, of course, you have your routes. So you have this API that is prefixed with the Nova vendor prefix there. So in this case, we are going to use it because we need to receive something. We need to send and receive. I'm going to use the post instead of the get, the method get. And on this case here, instead of calling endpoint, I'm just going to call it send. And I don't want to receive a request, exactly. And I'm going to do just a quick response type of JSON. So you always need to return JSON. I mean, in the normal scenarios of Nova, you can return a JSON and just say return. And this is the key. And the value can say, Roger that. I'm going to pass the same as we grabbed from the client. So we call it value, right? So that's the one I'm going to pass. So this value that is here is going to be a data that we are going to also call value. That is also the vModel value. So and for that, so this is the API again. Send. Put a semicolon. And here now in terms of methods. So if you want to send something to the server, Nova explains that on the documentation. So all we need to do, actually, I need to instantiate the value here too. And the received, the two input boxes is going to give an error. Okay, so as I was saying, if we want to send data, we can use the nova.request method. That's what that's what we are going to do here. So methods, and we are going to use the method called send, right? So that's the method that we will work on. And here, when we call the method send, so when we click on the button here, send these methods, what we're going to do is use the nova.request. So it's basically the nova.request hides, or let's say masquerades the Axios request for you. So you don't need to actually pass all the full configuration and all the full parameters of Axios, but you can use Axios if you want, no problem at all. So nova.request, it's a post type. So when you are doing your post, or when you're making your Ajax call, you need to prefix it with the Nova vendor. So this is the prefix that comes for that endpoint that you have on your tool. And then you always put then here the name of your tool itself from your view router, from the path. And then finally, you just call the method of the route from your API, in this case send. And after this, we also need to specify what parameters we want to pass. So in this case, I want to pass a key called value that is received, as you can see, via the request called value, key value here. And I want to pass the value, of course, of the input box from this data, right? That is reactive. So whatever you write on input box gets on this data value, this variable value, and then you can affect it here to be passed to the server via the post method. And then with the response that comes, what do I want to do? So here, basically, we can call, we can just say nova.received, because it's the other variable that goes to the other input box. We'll have this return that you can see here. So this return is basically this return key that is coming from here. So if I save it, if I run F5, again, just to recap, because a lot of information, we created the two input boxes and a button in the middle. We call the send methods that will receive this value, whatever we pass there. And on the send method, we call the Nova request, that is global, via the post HTTP method to our URI. The URI is always prefixed with the Nova vendor, and then here comes your route name from the tool, and here comes the API route itself that is here. And then we pass the value that is on the input box, sorry for that. And then when something comes up, our received variable that is binded to the other input will actually receive something. So if I write Bruno on the input box and I click on the button, I am expecting to see Roger that Bruno on the second input box. Okay, so let's see if it works. I'm going to write Bruno, let's send to server, and here we go, Roger that Bruno. So we made a call from the front end to the back end to receive information in a very pretty straightforward way. It was really great to see this tool working here to go to the server and coming back. But let's try to see what other methods does Nova provides us on tools and fields that you can actually use on your own favor when you're building these customized components. So here on the folder of Nova, in case we install it like this, there is the resources, and then there is the JS folder here on the left, and everything starts on this app.js file, as we all know, right? So it gets compiled and it runs everything that is here regarding imports. So imports Vue, imports, of course, this Nova JavaScript here, and here you can see the Nova class being instantiated. You have a constructor, and then you have these methods that actually you can use. Some of them you should not use it, like the liftoff. This is starts the Nova app by calling each of the tools callback. But for instance, the request, format number, the on, to register a built-in event bus that we are going to see on some next lessons. The ones, the emit, that is very important to missing resource, the error, the success, for instance. This one shows the success message to the user. Let me just give an example on this one. I'm going to run here on the help desk tool. Don't forget to have the npm run watch running. And I'm just going to see if it compiles. Very good. So let me just go to this tool.view and just head here. For instance, when we return something, nova.success, all good, just this, nothing else. If I go here, I reload the tool. So I write my name here, and here on the bottom right you see the toast message appearing, all good. So this is just an example about things that you can use, giving the global methods provided by the object Nova. Now there is a lot of things that you also will have access to. So for instance, if you go to this Nova, you'll see that it imports, besides all of these things, on the app, it also imports the fields and components. So all the components that actually fields is also view components, but all of these actions, card, cancel button, custom lens header, all of these is pretty straightforward for you to use in case you know what kind of properties and what kind of attributes should you actually work with. And we're going to see that also on the next video, on the next videos. But you also have these fields. All of them gets compiled, so you are ready to use these view components that are here, depending also if you want to use the index or the detail code field or the form, because they are actually have different type of view components given the context that they are loaded on. So from here, there is also some things that we are going to see that they are imported, not from the real code, local code, but also actually from the npm modules, one called Laravel Nova. And let me just show you that. If I go here to the settings and I hide the node modules here on my Sublime Text, and I go maybe to these node models here from the help desk tool very quickly. If you scroll down, there will be one called Laravel Nova. Laravel Nova load, sorry, not on the tool, but on the one from the Nova itself. So let me just get out of this, come back here to the Nova, node modules, because it's imported here on the package.json. So Laravel Nova, here we go, Laravel Nova. So here it again imports a lot of things, and especially on the fields you're going to see some things like form fields. It immediately gives you a props from the parent component that you can use on. It automatically also loads some methods for your view component that you can override, and some of them are even created on your view component templates. For instance, if you create a field, we are just going to see that right away. So this Laravel Nova is also good for you to explore and see the kind of methods that you can use, or the mixins, for instance, that you can load on your view component to actually empower it with things that are already built from the Nova framework. So let me just then show you the field itself, and just going back here to the top. As always, the node modules have a lot of stuff there. So going here to the Nova components, I'm just going to open a custom field, and this custom field I just created right now for our tutorial here. It's called just custom field, and it has the normal template. I didn't change anything, but actually I'm just going to call it on, I don't know, one of the resources that we have, like tag. There is this text. Let me just call it custom field. We could call it custom text, whatever. It's just to give an example here for us to see how things work. So I'm just going to import it. And of course, now if I go to tags, nothing changes, right? We see the field there, just exactly how it should work. If I edit the field, I see the field here, right? So now if we go to the custom field and if we go to the resources, and let me actually run it now in terms of the npm watch. So Nova components, custom field, npm run watch. Okay, I'm just going to minimize this as soon as it loads. Then, so here, if I go to the forms of my custom fields, there is the one that I'm actually seeing here. So you have detailed, form, and index. Index is when actually it's the index itself. Just have a span, nothing else. Detail is when you are in the detail view. It's called a panel item, and it binds a field property there coming from your props that are here. And in the forms, you have this template called this view component called default field. Also binding a field, binding errors, binding a show help text that is actually coming from the server in case you want to show some text there or not. So here there is some methods that it's important for you to know. So for instance, you have this initial value, you have this field here, okay? And these two methods already does something for you. So the initial value is the way this field actually is set. So this dot value, this is the reactive value that is binded here on the vModel on the input. So whatever you put here goes immediately to the input itself, and also in terms of behavior, in terms of if this value changes, right? And here it says it's equal to this dot field dot value, and then this is what comes actually from the prop that is here. So let me just show you these props that are here. So let me just create override mounted on this case, just like this. And here, the only thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the console.log resource name and also the other two. Resource ID, I guess this one you know what's going to happen, right? And the field itself. So here now I'm going to show the DevTools of Vue. I'm going to reload this page, and actually on the console, if we go down, there's an error. Resource name is not defined. Yeah, so sorry, hopefully it already reloaded. Yeah, good. Just load it again. So here we go. So this dot resource name, so this is the resource name that actually we have in context. It's called tags, right? It's here from the top. That comes also from the object class of the resource name itself. It's the URI key, like it's called. Then there is the 6. 6 is basically the resource ID that is passed. And then on the field, as you can see, you have a lot of stuff here that you can work on. And here is actually where you can pass your metadata, the with meta that we saw on a previous tutorial. And you have some things here that actually you can also work on for this field itself, right? Since the initial value of this reactive parameter here, this reactive variable, will affect the input, it will come from this .field.value. So what Nova does is it enriches this .field.value, and when this set initial value is called automatically, it will place it on the this.value. And if it's null, then it will just show blank, nothing else there. The field is exactly the contrary. So the field is, it will enrich an object called form data global object that the framework needs to then render, to get it from all the fields or all the objects UI components that can actually have this field. And then you just pass two parameters. One is the field attributes and another one is the value itself. So what happens here is basically, if you do have your parameter, your attribute and your value that are configured well, in this case the attribute, as you know, is going to be the name of the field, and then the value is going to be the value that exists there. So just as an example for you to see this working here, For instance, the fill, I'm just going to tweak it and say, just adding something here so you can see it, like three dots, dots here. And then what does this mean? It means that we are going to see the value that I have here, but when I save it, the fill will actually append those three dots that you can see here. So let me just reload again. And if I say update tag, there you go with the three dots. Okay, so we do have this set initial value field, but as you can see, there are some mixins here, especially the form field that is imported from Laravel Nova. So this is from the npm package that I just showed to you. So again, if you go here to the node models and you go to Laravel Nova, let's just check that one. So here Laravel, sorry, the videos are a bit long, but I think it's important, this part. Laravel AJS, there we go. Laravel Nova. It's also, there is also Laravel Vapor, nice. So Laravel Nova, in here, in these mixins, we have the form field mixin, see? So it immediately gives you some props, okay, in case they exist, resource name, show help text, things like that. We can map in case they come. The data, of course, the value is initiated because it really needs to, right? So normally you don't need to do this because it's already here on this mixin. A lot of people would forget this and it will give an error in case it was not on this mixin. The mounted, this is very nice. Look, this set initial value. So where did we see this? Exactly here, set initial value. Then it creates it calls the default fill method for the field. This.fill.fill equals to this.fill because it's basically this method fill that is here. But you are free to change this as you want. And then register global Nova event. This on and then this.value. This we are going to see also in a later tutorial, in 1 or 2 tutorials. Then there is a destroy, then there is then the methods that you can override that are here. And there is this handle change, see? You also can have a method called handle change that the framework calls, and then actually it will give your value reactivity to the target, to the event that was targeted for that value. So wherever comes on this event value, target.value would pass to your object. And finally, it also emits, because there is a change, it also emits an event, in this case with the suffix called change here. And then computed, in case it's a read-only, it will return if it's read-only true or false, so then get an extra attributes dot read-only from the fields. That basically it's one of the extra attributes that pass on the with meta that comes from the server that we already saw as an example. Read-only is actually one of the methods that is proprietary from the field class that you know. So here, as you can see again, it gives you a good overview about what you can have and use. I just made some a small test there for you to see that it can get affected. Logically, there is more things that you can explore here, but you're going to see that in this, I completely encourage you to explore the view components, because you see that import different mixins. And this is something we're going to see on the next session, is how can we actually load one of those view components default used by Nova, and how can we actually use it to, you know, create something like empower the tool to actually, for instance, render something there that is a view component from the framework itself. And that's it, and hope you like it. So we saw how to create elements that we can use in our tool, but we see that everything are view components that Nova already brings on. So what happens if we want to use those components that already exist? So let's take a look here on this Nova resources and JS. As we saw before, on the components we do import, Nova imports a lot of components, and these ones are available for you to use. The question is, how do you actually learn and how do you actually know how to use them, right? Some of them might be complicated and it might not be the effort because you need to deep dive in the framework, but the other ones, they are very simple to use, like the card, like for instance other ones that you can have here, like for instance the loading view We can do a test with this one actually, just for you to show how does it work and with the loading card. So these ones are actually view components that are used by Nova, but you can also use them on your own tool or anything that you're creating using a tool. So let me just give you an example. We do have this send to server, and we're going to do it a bit more, let's say, practical, so you can see the example of that loading card on this case. And for that, what we will do is actually to simulate kind of a waiting state here. So let me start by adding those loading views and loading cards. So let's go to that loading view. So how can we see the component itself? So we just need to go to resources, components, and here we do have this loading view. So it creates a div, as you can see. It has a slot in case the loading is actually not available. It's a boolean, so if it's true, it will actually show the loader, else it will show the HTML there that is inside, right, via the slot here. And you also have this loading card, and the loading card is more or less the same, but we can actually use it with a loading view too. So both at the same time, one inside the other. So here you can of course see the props that are being passed to the child, to this component by the parent one that we actually can use. And when we pass this loading to the child component that we will render and call on our main tool, we can then pass this loading property, and the component interacts and behaves accordingly to this code that is here, right? So let's just do that by first making a loading view. So loading view, and we bind that loading that we just saw to something, I don't know, initial loading, for instance. And the same goes here at the end. And also we already can create the other one, the loading card. And we also pass another one here. You can also see the classes of, you can also define classes if you need. So I'm just going to define here a class called card. And just to give it a bit of space, you're going to see it right away in terms of padding, vertical padding on this case. And here I'm just going to close down the loading card. Let me just quickly put it a bit better. Okay, loading card. Yeah, so like this here too. So with this, now we need to actually pass the information on our data, right? And for that, we need to put the loading here, loading. Let's put it true and see what happens. And then also that initial loading, also true. And let's see what happens. Of course, don't forget, you need to also have your npm run watch loaded inside your tool. And if I come here now to the help desk, it already starts to show that object there. So if I go to my view and I select this one here, you see there is a loading view inside, and of course nothing happens after, because what happens is he's actually on that, not on the slot, but on the other part that we just saw on the component of the loading view. So if I say initial loading false, we might see something happening here. We actually need to see the component itself. Sorry, it's not the view, but it's the card too. So we say false here, so nothing is being loaded. So the card has also a loading, as you can see, right? We have the one outside and the one inside of the card. In case you have two cards, you can actually render both differently. So here we go. Now we can see our code being placed here. And what we can do, for instance, is to actually create some kind of a behavior on the screen. Like if I write something, I send to server, it will put it on load and then come back when there is information. So to do that, it's very simple. All we need to do is actually to affect that loading. So let me see let's just affect the card, not the view itself. I just go put loading equals to false. Sorry, loading equals to true. And after the Nova success, we show the same. Now we show the card content itself. And let's just go to our route and just put a sleep so we can see actually it's working out. Where is this sleep? Wait, where is the route? It's here. Let's put a sleep too, just 2 seconds, just for you to see the effects. So now, if I refresh, everything should work fine. So if I just do like Bruno, this is going to hide for 2 seconds and then come back. See, there you go, all good here on the bottom right. So this is the way you can reutilize view components from the framework. Of course, I'm just showing here the objective of this tutorial is just to show a simple example, but you get the picture with this. There is other ones more complex that you can use, and you also have, of course, other ones inside these forms. For instance, you have like a datetime field that is here. Again, this datetime field, you just need to go to the components and search for datetime. Here I have datetime picker, for instance. So if I go here, and I don't know if it's going to work or not, but let's just give it a try. I'm going to come here and put a datetime picker. I think it might be possible to be rendered just with this. I need to search where is it actually. And let me just do a refresh and see if something happens here. It's going to be fun. Yeah, here we go. See, a datetime picker, and then of course with the logic inside it, you can affect it and get information from it to do whatever you want from there. So this is another example of another one that you can use. But again, it's here datetime picker actually. So again, the sky is a limit. Some of them are more complex than others. Mostly are pretty straightforward for you to build your and construct your own components here. Now, the last thing I want to show to you, this lesson is already going a bit far. How can I create a subtree here on my help desk that loads, for instance, the suppliers on the index, just like this. I want to put something here that redirects to one of the resources, or not redirects, sorry, but to actually load this router that you can see here on the top. And to do that, we actually need to go to our navigation.blade, and besides the router link that is created here, so this router link, as you can see, to name help desk. So this is the bindable tool that actually sends you to this help desk here that is given by the tool.js name. But you can actually put here whatever you want, right? So I'm just putting some letters and you're going to see what happens. So it appears something here, right? So let me just very quickly put here the classes that we need to use. And now I'm going to actually load the rest here. So I'm going to do a list item. This is actually what you see when you do an HTML view, and I'm just copying paste here from another code I have here at my site, but just to give you the example. And here you actually create your router link. So you create your router link that will have something, right, on this part, a JSON collection object here, and I'm just going to close the router link and write, I don't know, suppliers. And here, so what do we pass on our router link? Well, it's the same as you see on the other router links. So in this case, you can pass a name, and you can pass parameters that actually will be added to the query string, like the resource name, suppliers, the URI key from the resource itself. and you close down both, you give it a class, the same to actually appear on the sidebar, but these are all configurable by you, right? So no underline and dim. And here, when you go back, you're going to see here on the left suppliers that passes down to the index. So this is very, very useful when you are creating tools and you need to create routers, links, components to actually to the view that you want. Who says this one says another one's like and a detailed one that you want, and of course you can integrate this with your tool too. Thanks for watching. So let's start deep diving a bit now on the front end for fields. So what I want to show on this lesson is something really nice, is how do you pass data between one field to another. So how do we actually change data, for instance, on the first field, and then you want this field to also have the same data. So this field will receive the data from the previous one. And this is very important because there will be moments on your web applications on Nova that you need to know what fields were, what values were on other fields for you to interact maybe via an Axios call or to do some computations in the front end. So for that, Nova already has part of this functionality ready for you to use, but not all of it. So maybe in the future it will change, but for now it's like that. So here on the custom field, and this is a field that I just created, we and you also need to create it. So you need to have a custom field, a custom UI component. And what I'm going to do is basically just to change this one, the second one, the address, the one that is going to receive the data from the name field. And what we want to do is something like this. I want to have this field listening to, so you just put listen to, and this is a custom method. We are just building it right now. It's not from Nova. So listen to name. So I want to listen to the field that has the attribute called name, and in this case, as we know, is this field. So each time the name changes, the custom field will change for the same value as a text, as a name field that is here. So to do that, the next thing that we need to do is to actually jump to this class and just add here that that method that I just made. So public function listen to, and we pass an attribute. So that's the field attribute that we want to listen to. And all we want to do is just to return these with meta. So until here is the normal Laravel framework. So that has this method called meta, as we already learned before, listen to. And then just the attribute that is passed. So I'm going to inject a custom property called listen to on the view component, on the field view component. And then with that, on the view component, we are going to change the code there to actually be able to interact and change the value of itself. So now what happens is, if I go here to supplier and save it and just ask for this namespace, don't forget to do a watch on your field or on your UI component. Just in a second. There you go. And now let's look at the front end. So I'm just going to do an F5, see if it doesn't blow up somewhere. No, it didn't. So let me just now turn on view, the view dev tools here, just a bit up. So if I click now on my view component, I see that on the field I have this listen to, right? So this is actually what we are going to use to listen to the name there. So this name by default is already emitting a broadcast event. It's already doing an emit by a mixin that Nova has, and I'm just going to show to you this very quickly. So if you go to the form field here on the custom field, you have this form field from Laravel Nova. So if I go to node models, actually it's already turned on somewhere. Custom field, no, where are they? Maybe node models. Say it again, node models. So it's here. Something happened. Oh, just disappeared. Hold on. Node models. Where are they? Sorry for this. I'm just going to pause the video to resolve it. Yeah, it was something very stupid because I just need to hide it so it appears. So it is. So we have the node models now, and if you go to this form field, so this form field on Laravel Nova. So I have it here, and as you can see, this mixin does a lot of things. So for instance, it maps some props. It has this function called map props. Basically, what does it is it detects if these ones exist, and if they exist, it automatically imports that prop with the type there and the default value. Then there is this data with the value on it. So that's why you don't see here the data by default on your form field when you scaffold a new field. It's already placed here with the value. Then the mounted. So when you mount the view component, you have this set initial value. Then the field, the default field method that comes from the one on your view component, that goes for the fill here of the field itself. And then you do have this part that also registers a Nova event. So Nova on, and then the name of this field attribute value. It places the value each time there is an event that triggers the name of this attribute of this field dash value. This field will receive the value itself. So this is the part where the field will actually receive something in case any field broadcasts an event via the emit. And the emit, if you go to the handle change, you see here that there is already, when there is a change, it emits an event with the name of that field, but not with the target one that we want. So if we want to listen to something, I need to go to my view component and actually put that logic there. Okay, so the logic to actually listen to something is needed to be done. The logic to trigger something on change already comes by default on Laravel Nova. So given that, what we need to do is to go back to our form field here, and let me just take this mounted, that doesn't do anything, this console log. And what we need to start doing here is actually to, on the mounted, to pass that. So when I mount the field, I want to inject this logic about in case the listen to is there. So it's very simple. So what we do is basic if field dot listen to, in this case, looks like my fan is a bit too high. Hope you apologize me for that. So if this dot field dot listen to exists, Nova dot on, and here is where we put the logic on. So we go to the listen to, so to the attribute of the field that was passed by the server to our view component, and the one that does that is the change one. So as you can see here, if the parent field triggers the emit on the change with his only name, I want also to listen to that field, to that parent one, in this case the name, so it's the name that change. And I want to do something with that. So what I want to do is basically receive the value that is emitted there, and this is just a callback function, so callable. So you just need to come here and place this dot value equals to value, and everything works fine because what we are doing is affecting the data of your view component, the view data on the property data, your own local repository of view component with the value that was passed here. And of course, when you do this, because there is a vModel here, everything works fine and your input receives that value. So in this case, we also need to default on our data the listen to. So in case it doesn't exist, so just return, and I just put here listen to, just like this. So the value was already on the mixin, but because I'm overriding that, I'm just going to also put it here. And I think that's it. I mean, data, this field listen to. So in case the property exists, we will create a new listener that will listen to that listen to attribute when it's triggered on the change, again here by the handle change of the framework itself, and then we affect the value. So I'm going to save it. Let's see if it compiles. Yeah, it did already. And let me again refresh the screen. And very quickly, there we go. But it didn't work. Very nice. So let me see what happened. Mounted. Nova on is not a function. So I made a mistake somewhere. Nova on. Ah, yeah, it's a global one. So it needs to be like this. Very good. So just going again to load it. Okay, just refreshed. And here we go. So I'm changing the name on the parent, and it's getting affected on the address. Now, the contrary is not true, because as we saw, it goes on a single way. And this allows you again to basically interact with two fields. So on the next tutorial, we're going to see how to use, for instance, drop down to actually query the database and return data from the database to some additional view-only fields that we're going to put there. Thanks for watching. So we saw the emit event on the previous lesson. And on this one, what we're going to do is to actually use the emit event to interact between two drop-downs. So the first thing we need to do is just to actually create a field. So I'm going very quickly. Perhaps mastering Nova course, and we just do, as always, PHP Artisan Nova field. And I just call it, I don't know, Ajax select. So what this field is going to do is simple. We are going to create the drop down here, and when we change this best product, it will affect the other drop down with information that will be loaded on the fly, given the ID that you passed on this best product. So it's basically when you want to interact two drop downs one with each other. And again, this is just a very simple example for you to understand how it works, and it's not totally polished, but it will of course give you all the tools that you need to know how to interact between two objects, on this case two drop down fields. So very quickly, and let me just finish creating the field here. Okay, here we go. So it's just in Nova components, as you know, and then we have this Ajax select. I'm just going to also make it like this, so we can watch when we do the changes on the view component. Okay, so here we go. Now we have the Nova here with the supplier resource that we want to affect. I'm already placed here a select with returning just the product in the simple way, just the name and the ID. So now what I want to do here on this case is to add that Ajax select, Ajax select. So Ajax select. So we made him make, I don't know. So I'm going to filter by the order. So when you select the product, give me all the orders. In this case, just the date of the order. Just again to show how it works. So we put just the best order, and in this case, don't remember the name in the supplier. What is the name of the column? So if I go very quickly here to Mastering Nova course, suppliers. So you have the best product ID and the best order ID. So just best order ID in this case. And we just listen to, now we start actually passing attributes here. So for instance, the listen to. So in this case, I want to listen to a field. What is the field I want to listen to? So you just need to pass it here, the attribute name of the field, best product ID, and we are going to add these methods on our object. And I want to call, for instance, call API on get orders by product. So again, this is just two methods that you can call whatever you want, as long as they exist on your class name of your field. Because we are going to actually use metadata to pass this best product ID and get order by product to our view component on this case. So given that, all we need to do now is actually to go to our object and just pass that there. So if I go to Ajax field, Ajax select here, I just create those two. So public function listen to, and this is the attribute that I want to pass on, and return. Let's add the meta there, just as we learned before, right, with meta, and listen to, and then the attribute that was passed, attribute. And this with meta, what was the mistake I did? Return this with meta. Of course, it's a function here, so edit it here, just like this. And the other one is actually call API on, and what is the name of the API endpoint that you want to pass on, and then API, I don't know, API route. You can call it, as long as it's on the view component, you call it the same names on the field attributes, right? So on the properties. So let me just remove this. And now what happens on this Ajax select is he understands these two properties. So very quickly, let me just add a class here. Nova Ajax select. And if I do an F5 now, a refresh here, sorry, I'm going to see listen to does not exist. Listen to, maybe I just inherit the wrong one. Use Ajax select. Ajax select. There you go. And then F5. Yeah, oops, there was already another one here. Let me just remove it, just like this, and here we go. So now there is a field here with a number, right? Because that's the number that comes from the best order ID. But what we want is actually to transform this into a select. So now we go to our Nova component, to our resource here, and we need to start working here. So first of all, what else do we need to do? So we need to register an API route. And to register an API route, let me just create here a folder called routes, and then a file called api.php. So here we are going to actually load our route that we need to load here. And then we are going back to our service provider, to our field service provider, to do that. So I'm just going to put a route here with the same name that is here, get orders, right? By products, and just like this. And then what I want is, it's the normal way you define a route, just as simple as this. And then something is going to happen here. For now, we don't worry about this. Let me just inherit the ones here. So the route facade and the illuminate request is one, right? Here, then we will continue to put more information here that for now it doesn't matter. So how do we now register on our service provider? So we use the same as a tool. It's exactly the same code when you register when you create the scaffold for your tool. So you just say, as soon as the app is booted, then you can call a method these routes, and here protected routes, protect function routes, and here what we need to do is basically just well, if the routes are cached, of course. So if routes are cached, you don't need to do anything in this case. If the routes are cached, you just return. If not, then actually you put the middleware there. In this case, we just use the Nova one. It's not a tool, so you don't need to call the authorized one to verify if you can actually load the tool or not. Just a Nova one. We prefix it as exactly as the tool with the Nova vendor. And here we just call it Ajax Select. That's the name of our object, right? And finally we group it. We need to load it. That's basically what we are going to do now. We went before and just like this. So it's simple code, just to load the route. Let me actually just get the facade of the route. What else do I have here? Nothing else. Okay, let me save it. Let me save this too, and at least it should not give an error again. There you go. So we now are loading that API, that route. Let me just check it very quickly. Web apps, master Nova course, PHP artisan route lists, compact. Should appear something about this Ajax Select there. Yeah, here we go. So being loaded here as a closure. That's very good. So we have the API being loaded. We are going to work on that after. So now we need to start working on our resources here that we have. So we have this pardon me, this index detail and form field. We are going to work on this form field here. It's a text, as you can see here, but we don't want a text. We actually want a select, right? So we just go here to Nova resources, form, and you go to this select field, and just actually everything that is here. This actually was a pull request that I submitted to actually be able to do this video. So it just got released on this 3.13 version. So we just grab it and we go back to our form field here, and we just pass it just like this, and you save it. When you save it, you expect it to be compiled, which is very good. And now if I go here on F5, it's going to appear a drop down completely empty. Yeah, see, just with the chosen option, nothing else, because we are not passing any options to it, right? And this is where it starts actually the beauty about how do we capture the event, as we saw from. So there is an emission of the event from the previous drop down that we want to listen for. Now it triggers that. Yeah, it was corrected with my pull request on the Nova framework. And what we need to do now is very simple. So we just actually need to listen to that. We can listen on a mounted only created. So we already have the created method here. So I'm just going to listen here. So Nova on. So we are going to listen to that event that is being triggered by that drop down. So in this case, listen to. So this is the one that comes on the field, as we already saw in previous lessons. So I'm passing it now here, and I want to listen to the change event. So when the drop down changes, and from here we want to actually do something with that, right? With that value that was passed. For now, I'm just going to hard code something for us to see. So the object that is actually being affected is these fields options. So if you go here to the select control, you see the options, field options. And then there is, of course, the code on the Laravel Nova here on the left side on the select control. And here you can see that there is actually a group that it can happen in case there is a grouped options to be done. If not, then it just renders the normal option via these VLs. And it actually binds the attributes, and then it calls another computed method called label4, and they are both here. So you have the label4 and the attributes. So one gives you the option label, and the other one grabs other attributes that you can pass, grabs the option dot value. And if in case this one is the selected one equals to the option dot value, then there is a selected that is also being passed here. So again, this is code that comes from the platform. What mentions for you is that you need to pass something on this collection of the field.options that has a label. And why do I say it has a label? Because the prop by default has a label. So here as you see, this dot label, so it's going to be option label. So you need to pass a label and you need to pass a value, both. Okay, so in that case, when we go here to these options, just to do a test, so we put the options here and we create actually the two things here. So we need to create the option, just very quickly, label, just like this, label 1, and value. I don't know, I'm just passing things for you to see that it's going to work. And label 2, value 18. When you do this, actually the label needs to trigger an on change to actually be loaded. So let me just show to you what does this mean. So if I go here, you're going to see nothing happens. See, because we need to force the object to be updated. So all you need to do is just call the force update. For instance, there might be other options, but this is the one that I worked on. And what you see is that now when there is nothing there, but when you trigger something here, it also doesn't appear anything there. So let me just very quickly do a debug. Oops, there is some errors here. Default option for options. This dot field. Okay, there you go. So let me just grab it again to see if it works. No, sorry. Let me just see. What is the error? Invalid value for prop options, must be array type. So I'm doing something wrong on these options here. These.field.options, label value, and where is the error actually? Sorry, on the select control. Must be a object type. So very quickly, let me just comment this code to see if it works. No, so it's not my code. Let me compile it again. So form field, going back here, this dot fields dot listen to, change value, and then there's the options there. Just reloading it again. So there is a problem on the select control form field. So what did I do wrong here? Value, field options. Maybe I changed something by mistake on the select control. Assign, listening, label, value. All good. All good. Wait, actually saying there is nothing on the options. So I got it. So I need to go here and just define this dot field dot options. So when it starts, it needs to start empty. If I'm not mistaken, let us see. There you go. Yeah, it needs to have an empty collection. So now if I run my code again, we should see that event being triggered, the emit of the previous drop down, and not yet. Let's see the events here. So best product ID change, very good. So let me see if I'm listening to the correct one. So console.log. I'm just going to pass the name of the listen to. Sorry for this. And just going to run it again. Console. So best product ID, very good. So if I change the best product ID change emit by root, so it is fully correct. And this dot field dot options, so let me just put here triggered. Sorry, let me just see now if it runs and it detects the event. It's a good way for you to also see how it debugs. Good, so it's getting there. The only thing that happens is that the option is not being loaded, and this is because I made a mistake, as we see here. So these dot fields dot options equals to something. Very nice. It's not an array, so empty, and here we go, level 1 and level 2 finally. So of course this is hard coded. What we are going to see now is the second part, is how do we call a method to actually go to the server and come back and do that. So since we are in a completely uncharted territory, I'm going to continue doing the exercise. Maybe I'm going to do more mistakes, but bear with me with that. So let me find a Nova request somewhere on the code of Nova. I don't know, maybe this one. Nova requests. Now I need just one a bit more completed. Not this at all. This one looks nice. No, I need it with a then. Just with a then. Let me see if I find one. Nova request params Nova. This one. So just grab it up here. Even with a catch, nice one. So I'm going to close all of these windows, go back to ours. So now we don't want to load like this. Actually, we want to call something that will load, right? And to do that, so we have the Nova request. So I'm going to comment this part. And the video is already a bit long. And here we will call our API, and not this resource name. Well, we can even hard code this because we know what is the name, right? And we don't have the resource ID. What we want is the field dot what was the name we gave it? Call API on. That was API route. So this is what we want to call. So the API route and Ajax select, right? So that's the name, Ajax select, and then the name that we're passing there. Okay, and when we do this, we don't want to call a get. We want to call a post. And here actually it's not this one, Nova.request. No, this one, just very quickly. Okay, second parameter is the value. So it's what we're going to do here. So, and what do we pass? Well, we can pass like an ID, this dot, not the value, because the value is actually what you receive here. So not the this dot, not from your own object, but what you receive there. And then, well, and then we don't do anything for now, okay, except the fact that we will receive something that we need to act on. So for now, I'm just going to remove all of these. And the catch, for now, not important. Just like this. So let's see if it works. really. So I'm going to change something, and it calls something. Look, Nova API, Ajax select, get orders by product. So I made a mistake somewhere. Actually, it's giving a method not allowed because it's a post. So I made a mistake on the API. Let me go back here to the API. Get orders by product, Ajax select Nova API, Nova vendor. So it's not Nova API, it's Nova vendor. So I go back here. Not this one. Nova vendor. And I need to reload the page again. And now, see, it is calling. Now, what we need to do is actually to return just the products, the orders by that product that was passed, right? And to do that, we're not very far away from that. So on my database model, so I can get the orders that I want for this product. So we are going to pass a product ID. Let me just make sure that the product ID was actually passed. Yeah, ID 34. See, nice. So this request will have the ID attribute there. So I want the product. So I'm going now to receive the orders, right? So product where ID is his request ID. So until now, all good. So we are filtering by this product. Give me the first, so I can get the real object of the Eloquent model, right? On the orders collection. Now I have all the orders, but now I need to return it on the same way with that value and the label, right? So we're going to map. So this is where we transform that collection of orders to something that actually we can get. So the value, sorry, the label. Let's start by the label. Is the order. I don't know, sales date. I have that column here. So if you go to the orders, I have this sales date. We just put the sales date just as an example, okay, just for you to understand. And the value is actually the ID of the order, right? So order ID. And in this case, what happened is we are going to return a collection of those two. So when I made a mistake somewhere, yeah, just like this. So let's see if this works. At first inherit the product, and I think it's all. No, it's not all, because we need to return a response, right? In this case, it's a JSON response because I have the array there of these orders. So let's see now what happens. Let me change something here. Response. There you go. So label and value, label and value, label and value. So now all we need to do is to actually encapsulate that in the options that we have. So let me go back here to my object, where not this one is the Ajax select form field. So then, and this is now the part that we need to write the code to actually render those options there. So in this case, we have a response, right? That comes. It's being encapsulated on the response object that we just put it here. So so there is a, let me just quickly write console.log response. I think there is a data. It comes on the response.data object, if I'm not mistaken. Let's just check very quickly. Yeah, object. Yeah, there is a data. There you go. So this is exactly what we need to populate on our drop down. So exactly as we did here, hard coded, we are going to do it now dynamically. So this dot field dot options equals to response dot data, and then this dot force update. Well, for now we don't do anything on the error. Just take all of this and clean, but here you can call the Nova error in case there is an error on the transaction, right? So we should see now here on this drop down these values of these labels. Again, it's just to show the example so you see how things work. So empty. If I now change, there we go. So 330. If I change to another one, 305. Okay. So again, resuming our lesson. Sorry, almost 30 minutes. Sorry for that. We added two methods. We created the field. We transformed it to a select by copy and paste the code that already existed by Laravel Nova. We then created the API here for us to use on. And in our service provider, we also load that. And then in our fields, we just listen for the event being triggered by that object, pass on our listen to attribute, and then we do a call to actually retrieve the information that is already being standardized to be loaded as options on the view component. And finally, we just force an update on the component to reload those options. And that's it on this case. Thanks for watching. So it's time to build a help desk tool. What you're going to see on the next tutorials, it's to build a full functional tool that we will simulate a call center, let's say so, in a very simplistic way. So we are going to have some entities here, some resources that you can see here on the left: clients, priorities, profiles, severities, tickets, types, and users. Let's just go very quickly from these ones. Clients are just the ones that open tickets. Priorities is when you define the type of priority for a ticket. Profile is the type of profile from the user that is on Nova receiving those tickets and working on them. Severity, just the type of the ticket severity. The ticket itself, a title, a current operator, a client, and then some priorities, severities, and types. Types can be an incident or, for instance, a follow-up. And finally, we are going to have just 3 users here. So 2 of them will be a profile operator. So what we are going to do is when this John Carter Hoare or this Peter Morgado makes a login, he will only see the tickets that are assigned to himself. And finally, we have a supervisor called Suzanne that will be able to interact with any tickets, reassign a ticket to another operator, all of those operations that we are going to do here, and also apply some filters and lenses in terms of when the tickets are, let's say, were created or analyze the history of a ticket. So for now, what we're going to do on this first tutorial lesson here is just to create a theme around this. So I don't think we ever talk about that. And also to just create the first tool. So we're not going to use the resources directly here on the left, but actually we're going to create here the help desk, and then all of these resources are going to be under that tool as links directly to the indexes, contexts that we have here on the right. So to do that, all we need to do is just to make the normal PHP Artisan Nova theme. So let's start by the theme, and you just did the normal package repository syntax. So I don't know, Nova help desks, or no, in this case help desk theme. Let's just go like this, and you just follow the normal installation of the creation of this component, this Nova component as usual, and it's created. So now we do have here on the left this Nova component that we can interact with. So there is a CSS file, and there is just a provider. So normally you don't need to do anything on the theme service provider. It basically, when the Nova triggers, when it starts bootstrapping, it just loads this theme.css, so from your public folder. So if you go now, we don't have them yet. We're just going to deploy it in 1 minute. And then it allows us to actually publish that help desk theme that from our resources directory called help desk theme. So it's exactly the same name that you also have here, and it's called theme, so will be loaded as soon as we deploy it. To deploy it is very simple. We just need to do a vendor publish. Bear in mind that each time you do changes on the theme, you need to redeploy it again if you do changes on the CSS file. And we do have here this one that will be mine. So I'm just copy paste, because we're going to do this sometimes. Vendor publish. What is the name? Is provider, exactly. So provider equals, we just passed here. Just let's do a force. I'm going to repeat this several times. So here on the left, now I have this help desk theme with this theme.css. So if you change here, of course, then you don't have it on your package. So I'm just going to change it first here on the package. We do a redeployment, you're going to see the changes. But of course, if you're just doing tests, you just change this directly on the public to see it happening, and then you copy paste back to your package. So given that, we now have something being loaded. Let's see what happens when I refresh here the page. This is the default one that comes for us to see that is working, but I think these colors are a bit vivid, if I can say. So let's put them maybe on a bluish here. So very quickly, let me try to find something. So we have this 2, 5, 4, 1, and 1 to 9. So this is the main color, as you can see here. I'm going to go to the bluish zone. Maybe this blue, not so much bluish. So 1, 180, 254. 1, 180, 254. So I'm just going to replace 1, 180, 254. Replace all. And there is the dark here that is being used on the buttons mainly. So let me just refresh again. Of course, I need to polish it. There you go, a bit nicer. Let's change also these ones to white. And the button still has this pink, dark pink color that is affected here. So in that case, we just go back here to our zone and just put it a bit darker. I don't know, something around here. So 6, 1, 2, 3, 1, 6, 1. 6, 1, 2, 3, 1, 6, 1. Looking better. Let's see. Again, publishing. And there we go. And now these two icons here, the SVG icons, it comes from this zone. Sorry, it comes from this zone. So I'm just going to put them white. And publish it again. And there you go. So we can keep it like this. I think for now it's just for you to understand how you can quickly apply a theme. The theme doesn't apply to other things that you have here directly, but as long as you inherit your CSS file, in this case you can put more custom methods here, custom properties and classes, sorry. You can start overriding some of these ones, and there is very nice packages on the novapackages.com with themes that you can get inspiration to then adjust it to what you need. Okay, so getting back here to our example, the next one is to actually create the tool. So I'm going to do it very quickly. So PHP Artisan, if I can write, okay, sorry, so PHP Artisan Nova tool. Now we're going to create our tool called Nova Help Desk. Very quickly, and it just gave an error because I gave exactly the same name as I gave the library here. So bear with me, I'm just going to delete it very quickly and call it another name. Completely unfortunate. So here we go. I'm just going to quickly come back here and do it very quickly. So just pausing for some seconds, just making a quick composer update before creating it again. Now let's create it, PHP Artisan Nova tool, and let's call it Nova Help Desk tool. Let's give it a yes. Okay, almost there, and almost there. Okay, so it's created here, Nova Help Desk tool. So let me just remove all of this. And now that we have the tool, what happens here on our screen? Let's do a refresh again. And it does the P because we need to add it to our Nova provider. So let me just go quickly to the Nova service provider. As we saw before, we go to the tools, and we just write new Nova Help Desk tool. There you go. Refresh again, should appear something. Nova Help Desk tool. Very good. If I click here, we are in the black hole as always, and this is very simple to resolve. First of all, the name is too big. Let me open everything here. So as you know, I have the tool.view. It's important that you also have the Webpack running as a watch here. So Nova components, Nova Help Desk tool in this case. sorry, Nova, oh my god, help desk tool, and we do an npm install. It's already installed. Npm run watch, and we can open another window here, web apps, Nova help desk. Okay, so there you go. So it's now in watch mode, and I'm going just to change the name to help desk. And if you go now refresh, it is not compiling. Should be Nova help desk tool. Sorry, I'm changing here. So on the sidebar, the file is the navigation.play.php. So I'm just going to change it, help desk, to keep it short here on the left. Now, let's pass all of these resources to our help desk here. And to do that, we need to actually create some view routers here. So we have this router link already placed here. And what we need to do is just replicate the code that exists for the other sidebar navigations. I just have it here with me, copy paste directly from the Nova one sidebar. So you create an order list, and then you just need to create a list item that I'm just going to copy paste here from my notepad. And what happened here, and this is the most part that I want to explain to you, this creates a link. And the link on the router link, just like you have here on the top, we say we want to go to the index context, to the index navigation context, with the parameter of the resource name that you want to apply there. So we have clients, priorities, profiles, severities, tickets, types, and users. So except the users, that we can leave it on the resources, and then we're going to see that after how do we hide it given the profile. Let's put all of the other ones: clients, priorities, profiles, severities, tickets, and types. So very quickly, you just need to copy paste, and you put the URI name, key name of your resource. So in this case, it's clients. I'm going to save it, doing a refresh, and I should see the clients here on the left. And when I click it, it actually goes to the index of the client. And this is, you can use index, you can use other ones that you know, you have here. If you have a detail, you also need to pass here the key for that resource ID that you want. It's very simple when you start using these and making more explorations there. So let me just put the other ones. So clients, priorities, in this case priorities, very quickly, priorities, and the next one is profiles. So again, put here the profiles, and you see that it's being repeated, and we are just going to hide it from the sidebar very fast. So clients, priorities, profiles, and then severities, tickets, and types. So very quickly, actually I'm going just to copy 1, 2, 3. So types here, and then we have tickets and severities. So tickets, and finally severities. So in this case, as you see on the sidebar, now I have all of them here. So if I click profiles, if I click severities, of course now I'm with Suzanne, that it's the supervisor, but when I enter with an operator, I should not see things that I can admin here on the left, right? So for now, I'll leave it as it is, but on the next tutorial, we are going to see how we can apply security here. So first of all, let me hide the other ones very quickly. And to hide them, for instance, client Nova, all you need to do, as we saw previously, is to actually override the static property display navigation. So if I do public static display in navigation equals to false, so the clients now here on the left, they need to disappear. There you go. So let me just very quickly do this for the other ones. So it's priorities, profiles, priorities, can put it here, profiles, and severities, and tickets. Oops, sorry, just like this. So let me go back here, do refresh. Let's just leave the users there on this case. So we still have profiles and types. So profiles. Actually, this one is with display navigation false, but it's still appearing. Give me just a moment. Let me try to take out the other one. This one too. So just the profiles. Let's see what happens here. Maybe I have already another one. Display navigation. No. Public static profiles. Display navigation false. There you go. So again, we just leave resources, we pass all the other ones here, and we start to have our tool, let's say, a bit more configured for the next lessons. Thanks for watching. So now that we created the resource sidebar, let's start applying some permissions on our Laravel Nova resources that we have. So I have 3 operators in this case. We have Suzanne, Peter, and John. And Suzanne is a supervisor, and the other 2 male persons, they are operators. Okay, so supervisor is someone that should see all the tickets. An operator should only see his own tickets. So let me just log in very quickly as Peter and show you what is happening now. So when we log in here, we notice that Peter, that is an operator, he can see the clients, and if he clicks on the tickets, he can actually see all the tickets from everybody. So the first thing that we need to do is, how can I remove the clients from the sidebar? So I'm going step by step, and each time I do something, there will be an impact, and that impact might not be the result that we want, and then I will correct that result to the right approach. Okay, so you can see how do we actually use permissions, visibility, and authorizations in a specific business scenario that you can have. So you want to actually hide this sidebar here on the left. So I don't want to see clients if I'm an operator. So how do I do that? We go here to the views on your tool. And remember, we placed these links here, these router links, right? So Nova actually uses the authorization gates from your policies, that you can just call them as a normal policy verification, authorization verification that you need to do. So you use normally the blade can directive to do that. So how do you actually call that and verify if you can do something? So you just pass the name of the policy. In this case, it's by default it's the view any, as we already saw on previous tutorials, and then you just pass the model that you want to verify here. So what I want to do is I want to verify if the authenticated user can actually perform as a result of a true on this view any policy method. So if I go to the policies here and I go to the client policy, I have this view any and it's returning true. So nothing should actually happen. So I'm just refreshing the screen again. So I see the clients. And now when I put a false, I should not see the clients on the left side. And here we go. So I am now on the tickets, and I can actually just don't go to the clients anymore. Even if I go here to the top, because the view any is really hiding the resource, you just don't have access to it. But there is some negative impacts here that we don't want. For instance, I don't think you noticed, but the column clients also got removed from this index query. So let me put it again true. And you see that the column is going to actually appear there now. So as you can see, this is not exactly what we want, right? We want to have the sidebar that I cannot have access because I'm an operator, but I want still to see the client here. I don't want him to disappear. Even if I go to the detail, I also want to see the client here. Now what happens is when you pass a false on the view any, the resource is completely removed from anything. So as you can see here, there is a label, there is a field called client. I'm just refreshing the screen and the field is no longer there. So how do we resolve this? Well, in this case, we need to actually create a customized gate, authorization gate for us. So in this case, you just add one more method on your policy and you say public function. I'm just going to say view in sidebar, and you pass exactly the same information here, and you just do a return true in this case, and we are going to change that. And here, instead of using that one, we are going to use a new one called view in sidebar. So now what happens is I can actually see it on the left side here, and we're going to change it. And I see also on the tickets, I also see the column clients here. But now if I change it to false, I expect it to be hidden on the left, and I still see the client. And here it is. But this still didn't resolve our security issues. For instance, if I'm a smart guy, I can go here to the top and I actually can write the resource name, and I have access to the index detail view of the clients. And this should not be possible, right? Basically, what we are, let's say, trying to grab with the view any from one side, that is to actually remove completely the access to that resource. By another side, when we change that to the view in the sidebar with this false, now I can actually access the resource if I know the name of the resource here on the top. So we need to be a bit more, let's say, smarter on how to resolve this on this case. So to do that, let's just try to understand what we need to do. So if I go to the client policy, definitely I need to do something here, right? And definitely I need to somehow interact with this view any, because but from one side, I want to be able to see the client here. So I want the view any not to be activated, so I can see the client here. But from another side, if I write clients here on the top, I don't want the Peter, that is just an operator, to have access to that. So what should we do here on the view any? And this comes the one of the added values here on this tutorial. We're going to actually write that here, this condition. So first of all, what we need to understand is that if I'm a supervisor, I need to have access to it. So if profile name supervisor, so we return true. So here nothing happens, because on this view any of the client, if I'm Suzanne, that is a supervisor, I want to have access to the client no matter what, right? To see it everywhere, to have access to the index view and all the rest. But if I am an operator, I don't want to have access if I'm on an index context and if my resource that I have on top is actually the client. So if I do this, I should not have access to it and should actually show a page without that access. So how do we write that? So Nova has a specific request class that is being used, and that it has empowered it with more information. That is called Nova request. So I'm just going to write it here, and just for us to navigate to this class. And this class gives you a lot of information, and especially it gives you something connected to where you are. It verifies if you are in one of these modes, create index. For instance, in the case of index, if it actually the request is a resource index request, if it's a detail, and if it's an action. Well, David just made it in a completely different way. It just goes to the segment of the URL, grabs the third key index, and verifies if the word is actions. So here I want to verify these. I want to verify the index one here. So I don't want you to, if I am on the index requests and if I am the URI clients, then URI resource clients key, then I don't want to actually be able for you to see, because you are an operator. So how do we write that? First of all, we resolve the class, just like this. And let me just, and that's already existing. So we resolve the class, and now with this class, we just verify exactly that one. If is resource index requests, just like this. So here it's half is done, but if we go here, it doesn't resolve. It doesn't do everything that we need. So let me just tell you why. And this is actually a very good opportunity. So if I return these, clearly on the tickets, look what happens here to the client. I'm just going to refresh. It's going to disappear. And why it disappears? Actually, it didn't disappear because, return Nova. Yes, because we are in the index request, right? So if I say not on the index request, then the client disappears. Exactly. So this is not what we want to do, because from one side we still want to see it, but we don't want to have access to the index request if we are on the context of the resource of the clients. So we just need to add something else here. So in this case, we just need to say that on our request, and this is another small golden gem here, is you do have an attribute called resource on your request, and this is the Laravel HTTP Illuminate HTTP request on this case. So you do have a resource, and this resource comes with the URI key, or your resource key, in this case tickets, clients, etc. So all you need to do is, if in this case, if you do have, you're an index and you are in the context of an index only for the clients, then you need to return false. You can optimize this to return immediately, doing the contrary, the negation of this. But here you can get again the example. So if we are in the index context and we are in the resource clients, then we should return false. So it's not the case here, because here we are in the context of tickets. So we should see the column again there. And we don't see it because I need to return something at the end. Sorry. Here we go. So we see the client here. So Nova understands that we are in an index, that's true, but we are not in the resource clients. Great. So now if the operator again tries to be smart, look what happens. He cannot access the resource clients. But good news, if I want to see the detail of that client, or in this case one of these clients, for instance, detail here, I click on the client, I can see the client. And this is extremely important, again, on the example that we are doing. We see the client, but we don't have access to the index view of the clients. So one part is done. Now let's do the second part, that is actually to lock down our permissions to only see what is from this operator. And how do we do that? Well, we go to the ticket policy. And again, here we need to do some things. So what can you see? Well, I can see things that are connected to me. So I can return a ticket that has an operator ID equals to the contextualized user ID. This user is actually the user that authenticated, that comes here. And in this case, the I starts to disappear from several places. Okay, there we go. So now I can only see the ones that says Peter Morgado. Second thing, can I actually delete one? I shouldn't. So let me again just put this. Should I create a new ticket? No. Can I update a new ticket? Yes. Can I delete a new ticket, an existing ticket? No. Can I restore a forced one that was soft deleted? No. Can I completely delete one? No too. So let's again go here, and we went a bit too far away, because there is one here, one policy that does need a ticket. So return ticket operator ID for the create. So where is the create? Create, yeah, you don't create, you just return. In this case, return the user profile name equals to supervisor. So only supervisors can actually create tickets. And here we go. So there is still the delete turned on. Let's see what happened here, because delete, yes, sorry, you cannot delete one. So I just need to copy paste this code. Apologies. So what we're saying is that for these, let's say, high profile operations, only for the supervisor. So things, there we go. So I can edit this one, but it's from Suzanne. So we are going to resolve this in 1 minute. So you can see that Peter can view and edit, you can actually also get details into the client. So we're going on the right way here. Now we just need to actually hide things here for only for Peter. And this can be used in two ways. One is you can apply a global scope. It's a bit more safe applying the global scope. But here in this case, I'm just going to use the index query. That is faster to do that. So let's go here to the Laravel Nova. As you can see, you can apply a resource on your resource, the index query that you already see previously in other tutorials that I on this course. And I'm just going here up to the to where? To Nova ticket. Just going to put it here somewhere. I'm just copy pasting the text from the documentation. I need to write it. So what happens now here? So first of all, I just need to apply an index query in case the ticket is in case the profile is an operator, right? Not one from so if auth user profile name supervisor operator, exactly. So we are just going to filter in case it's an operator and return where user ID, actually it's exactly this, there is nothing here to change. So let's see, going back here, and there's a problem here. First of all, the auth one, sats 25, check compatibility. Maybe I forgot to to actually load it. Let's check it out. Yeah, it's working now. So here we go. Now it's filtered. I can only see the ones from me and nothing else. Now the good thing is that due to the fact that we're applying a policy here somewhere, ticket, that allows you only to view the ones that are yours, meaning that if the operator tries to be smart and instead of seeing the 249, he wants to see the 248, that is actually from another operator, it will actually not allow you to see. So in terms of permissions, we are going to the right way here, and we are almost finished. Now the next step is actually, if we are seeing our tickets from this operator, I see this client here 19, right? Because I do have tickets connected to Peter. But what happens if actually I go to another client that has other that doesn't have tickets connected to me? So in this case, I am seeing this client because I do have tickets here that are connected to these clients, but if I don't have tickets, I should not see even the client here, right? Because you can still access here on the top via the ID of the client. So let me just give an example. If I go to my table called tickets, I see that I have here the user ID. So Peter is, very quickly, select Peter is the number 2, where user ID equals to 2. So I didn't see this client ID here, right? So I'm just going to order by client ID. And I see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let me just delete the number 1 and you see what I mean. So I'm going to delete from tickets where client ID equals to 1. Now, if I go to the 1 here, I am Peter and I can still see this client, although I don't have tickets here. So I should not be able to see this client, but only the ones that I have tickets connected to. So how do we do that? Now we need to just do the last thing on this tutorial. We go to our policy, client policy, and on the view, it's where actually all the fun is going to happen. So we can only allow this client to be shown to this operator if there are tickets from this operator connected to this client. So to do that, we just use the normal eloquent. So we go to the tickets of this client and we verify if the user ID present there is actually equals to the user ID that got here. So then we retrieve the collection, we count that collection, and we verify if it's bigger than 0. So in this case, the client number 1 should actually not be able to be seen. And here we go. So now, finally, if we go to any other client where I actually can see, have tickets connected to it, like this one, I click here, I can still see the client. Before we jump into ticket assignment actions, let's just create a quick filter here where the operator can actually filter by the tickets that are assigned to himself or tickets that are unassigned. So right now we have everything mixed up here on the list, but it will be good just to have a filter here on the top right corner of the table. So to do that, we read some previous lessons, but just repeat it in here again. You do Nova filter, and then you create the filter, I don't know, mine or an assign filter. And by default, it creates a select filter here that we can see here on the left side on the filters. We just have the filter here. It's a type select component. And then you have two methods, the apply and the options. And in this case, you can also check here the filter class, and you also have this displayable name, the public name. So we're also going to change that up right in a minute. So what I want to do now is to apply this filter and to give some options here that we actually have the two drop-down values. One is to say my filter or assigned to me, and the other one is to say unassigned. So we start by creating that assigned to me or assigned to myself. And in this case, what we want is the ID of the current user from the request. You can do like this, or you can actually just do the auth, use the auth facade, as you all know. And the second one is unassigned. So when you use nullable values on filters, you need to pay attention to that, because if you pass a null here, just like that, the filter doesn't work well then on the apply, due to the fact that the Eloquent, when you are searching for null values, you don't do just equals to null, you do a is null, right? As we know, we use the where null method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reference here to a null, just like that. And then on the apply, all you need to do is if the value is actually null on the drop down for the filter, then what we need to do is just we return the query using the where null user ID. So this is in the column of the ticket user ID, if it's null, then it's the ones that it should return. If not, then it just returns a query where user ID is actually equals to the value that was passed here on the assigned to myself. Just like that. I'm going to save it. And I'm going to actually run this mine or assigned. I'm going to actually to load this mine or assigned filter on the ticket. So if you go to the resource, you then have here the filters, and I'm just going to instantiate it here, new, just like this, clear it up, save it. So let's see what happens here. It still doesn't work because of another thing we need to tweak out, but I'm just going to show to you that now it appears here. Mine or assigned filter assigned to myself or an assigned, it gives the name based on the class name, but actually we can just go here and just override the property public name equals to ticket type assignment. You call it whatever you want, just to show to you. And if you now go here, I do a refresh, we might see the label called another thing. Yeah, ticket type assignment. Now, if I do assign to myself, I see that nothing works, right? I mean, we just apply the filter, and this is the example I want to show to you. Somehow it creates some results here, but it's not actually the result that we want. So in this case, what's going on here? So that's what we're going to see on the resource itself. So as you remember on the previous lesson, we actually applied an index query here that is running by default. So this index query is joining the query that is coming from the action itself, from the filter itself. So we need to restrict that to say if we are running under a filter scope, we don't want to run this index query on this case. So how do we do that? So here, what we need to do is if our request filters, and this is very important, you can actually have a collection of the filters that are being applied at the moment on this request. So if it's actually equals to 0, then we want to apply this second if that is here. So this is how it works. So we only apply this index query if there is no filter being applied. So let's check it out again. I'm just going to click on tickets, so it comes back. It's using this index query that you have here, status unassigned or equals to myself. And now when I choose to myself, I actually have them selected to me. So this is a small tweak that you can see on this lesson, and again it helps you a lot to understand why the index query also overrides some of the filter queries that we are applying here, and this is something that you really need to pay attention to. So now next lesson we go to the ticket assignment. Thanks for watching. So if you're an operator, you would like to create an action where you could actually assign tickets to yourself. So as you can see here, where they have a filter that you can select the ones that are assigned to yourself, the ticket ones, or the ones that are not unassigned. And what we want to do here is to create an action that allows us to select tickets and then assign to the current operator that is authenticated. So how do we do that? First of all, we just create an action. So with a normal Nova action command, just like this, Nova action. And we can call it assign to myself. And here on the left, as we saw, we appear here on this folder called actions assigned to myself. So this is normal action as we saw in the previous tutorials. So let's just enhance it to do what we need to do. So first we override the name of the action just with the name, and I can call it assign tickets to myself. Just like this. And on the handle, we will receive a collection of models that we need to iterate to change the user ID on the ticket, right? So in this case, models as model. So for each of those models that we receive that we will check on the index view, we will actually update it. The user ID will be equal to the authenticated user ID. So pretty simple. We iterate the models collection, and at the end we just update the user ID on that ticket. We know that we are selecting tickets because we are going to add this action only on the Nova resource tickets. So we just need to go here and just write new assign to myself. And if we refresh now, we should see checkboxes on the left that we can select. Here we go. So when you select them, you then can assign to yourself. Now, when I click here, you're going to see that it's going to give an error, especially on the policy. And this is what I want to show to you. So as we saw in the previous tutorials, we applied policies to define what the operator could do or not on our ticket, right? And as you can see here on the update, we said, okay, I can only update tickets where I'm actually the owner of the ticket. So what we want to do now is to override this policy in order that if you come from an action context, you need to actually do something on the update. You don't want to reach the same because those tickets aren't assigned, right? So we want to do something here to say like if coming from action, then you execute that. And this is something that is pretty useful for you. So on this case, what we need to do is to resolve the Nova request class and verify if it's an instance of action requests. And because when you store when you click on the button of the action, it submits on the action controller of Nova, and the hinted type, the class type that is passed on the argument on the constructor is actually coming from an action request. And On this case, if you go here to vendor and then Laravel Nova on HTTP controllers, you have the action controller here. And when you do a store, it is an action request type, as you can see here. So this is the one that we need to verify. So if it's the case that our Nova request is resolved via the service containing coming from the action request, then we are in an action context. So how do we do that? We just do a resolve if resolve Nova request class that is actually being passed instance of action requests, then we are under an action request scope on this case. And what we need to do is we just return true, meaning we allow the policy actually to update those items, those ticket items that are coming here. So let me just load the namespaces, and now let's see if it works. Coming back here, and I'm just going to, well, I don't need to refresh the screen, but well, just doing it right now. And let me select the 240 and 237, assign tickets to myself, run action, and that action ran successfully. So this is very important on the ticket policy, that you understand that you have a way to override your code, to override decisions that you're taking, given the fact that you can verify where you're coming from. And not only you have the action request, but you also have other ones. If you go to the Nova request here, where is it? Nova. It's on the request, sorry, not on the controllers. Nova request. So you do have, if it's creator attached request, if it's an updater request, if it's a resource detail request, resource index request, so, and finally have these action requests if you want to verify on another way. But in our case, as soon as you verify the request class type here, then you, since it's from an action request, then everything will work fine. Okay, and that's it. So on the next tutorial, we're going to actually see how we will assign tickets from the coordinate to supervisors to the operators. Thanks for watching. Another type of action that we need to create is the supervisor action to actually assign a ticket to any operator. So if I log out here and I enter with Suzanne, Suzanne is the supervisor, and she needs to have access to actually, just create an action to assign any ticket to a specific operator. So if I go here to tickets, and here on the left side, I don't know, I can select this one, for instance, that is not assigned. And then here, I don't have only the assigned to myself, but I actually have a assigned to operator. And then I select that operator, right? So how can we do this very quickly? So we follow the same as the previous lesson. So we just do a PHP artisan Nova, and then action. And we just call it assign to operator action in this case. And Nova creates automatically, as we know, scaffolds here the action for us to use. Now, as we saw in the previous lesson, we just need to work with the handle and also work with the field. So let's start by giving it a name here. So as we saw before, we just need to do a public name and then assign, overriding the name attribute, assign to an operator. And how do we select the operator? So here on the fields is actually where we're going to add the fields that we want to be selectable when we run an action. And this is part of the Nova platform. We just need to pass the fields here. And in our case, what we want to do is to basically have a drop down with the operators, right? So let's do that here. So we return a select with a label called operator, and the options that are possible to be created inside that operator, and of course we want to display using labels, are actually the Eloquent query that gives us all the operators. So it's very simple, just do a plug on the collection, on all the Eloquent collection model instances that are inside the user, and we just do a plug passing the name and ID. So it returns an array with the keys name and ID, exactly as Nova needs. Just adding here the model user and also the select. And here on the handle, it's practically the same as when you are assigning to myself. It's very close to that, but we are going to use the field value and not actually the auth ID where it says from the authenticated user, in this case the authenticated operator, right? So what we need to do is just to use this action fields collection and retrieve the one that is called operator. So this is the name of the field. This is a label. As you know, we can pass a second parameter. Nova, this is automatically in case you don't do it using the Studley case. And here we just call it operator because it's the one that comes from here. So given this, we need to also add it to our ticket as another operation. So I'm just going to put here new and assign to operator action. Now, when you do this, you'll see that we're not restricting it just to be for the supervisor. And if you do this, and let's just see if it works first of all. I go here, I select this one, I say assign to an operator, and then I can choose the operator. Very good, but we're not going to assign it immediately because now I'm with Suzanne, but if I log out and I enter with Peter, for instance, that is a normal operator, let's say so. You also can actually assign tickets. So it should not see the action here that says assign to an operator because it can only assign to myself, to himself. So to do that, what we need to do here is just to work with the authorization can see method. And it's very simple. Just pass, it accepts an argument that is the request, and then you return, in this case, if the auth user is supervisor. And if it is a supervisor, then it will actually load it and return true. Here. So let's see now. I need just to import the namespace. Here. I refresh. Now I'm in with an operator. I should not see it. I click here. I don't see anything. Now if I go with Suzanne desk.com, and I should see it to assign. And let's see if it assigns also. So I'm going to select here. Here we go, assign to an operator. And then I select an operator, Peter. So it's the 247 ID and assign to Peter Morgado. So this is the way that we saw the way we can restrict actions with authorizations, and also how we can also load fields that are configured via each action that you're doing.